I have a chapter where I recommend throwing away your children's stuff. And what I mean by that is, I think, you're when you have kids, your house is just a disaster all the time. And I make the delineation between things and stuff. Now, things are like you have to have those to raise your kids. There's like the high chair, the car seat, like those are non-negotiables, right? You got to have those. But stuff, I think, is a real danger to your time as a parent because I walk around my house every second I'm not at work. I walk around my house, I'm just picking things up, and they're what I define as stuff is just that random sort of like debris. And it's like it's like a Barbie shoe and a Lego and a nickel and just all these like random things, right? Like your kid's lucky nickel, not even like a nickel you could spend on something. It's like, no, that is like a cherished item. That's like their best friend for that week or whatever.
Yeah.
And so what I recommend in the book is like when you get a handful of that stuff, instead of spending your evening walking around your house going like, where does all this stuff go? You just throw it away. And that's a huge time saver. But of course, the danger is that your kid's going to go, well, where's my lucky nickel? That's my best friend. I can't possibly go to school without my lucky nickel in my pocket. So I invented something called the Purgatory Cabinet in our home.
Today's episode sponsor is Aditon, creators of Aditon Operations Kit, the military's go-to software for personnel and equipment accountability. AOK goes where you do, any network, anytime, any place. I got to know Aditon's co-founders, James and JJ, several years ago. They are former Army NCOs who have years of experience in the tech industry. They understand that most military jobs aren't performed behind a computer desk. Personnel and operations are distributed, but accountability of property is paramount to making mission. That's where Logi, AOK's equipment management software, comes into play. Formerly known as 92X, Logi is a next generation of equipment management for the military. Logi offers unrivaled features for military teams on the go. Ingest and digitize your primary and sub-hand receipts. Generate and share sub-hand receipts and DA forms with your team in just a few clicks. Capture photos, tags, and notes across your team to build context on the state of equipment. Get easy on-the-go access to critical property records. Logi is custom built for the modern military professional. It gives you your valuable time back so you can get back to the mission at hand at home or in the field. Whether you're doing monthly inventories or preparing for deployment, Logi is your pocket property book, giving you real-time visibility into equipment status and mission readiness. Logi is currently in use across the U.S. Army Special Forces, and it's expanding. For a limited time, listeners of the From the Green Notebook podcast can try out Logi for free. Visit aditonppbc.com/FTGN-Logi to get started. That's ADYTONPBC.com/FTGN-LOGE. How do I know what I think until I see what I say?
The Green Notebook, carried by military leaders around the world. Within those pages are sweat, tears, triumphs, and the hard-won lessons of life. Lessons worth sharing. Each week, the team dives into the notebooks of military leaders, business professionals, authors, athletes and coaches, and entertainers to share lessons and help you lead with the best version of yourself.
Welcome to a special Mother's Day edition of From the Green Notebook. I'm your host, Joe Byerly, and today we're diving into the Green Notebook of Danny Ricker, a head writer and co-executive producer of Jimmy Kimmel Live. And he's also the author of the hilarious parenting book, Wow, You Look Terrible, How to Parent Less and Live More. Now, I know what you might be thinking, why bring a late night comedy writer onto the podcast for Mother's Day? Well, this episode is for every parent who's ever tried to plan a birthday party with the logistical complexity of a military operation, carried a toddler uphill in the snow like a rucksack, and to the moms and dads who found themselves demoted to snack bitch on the family road trip. We laugh a lot in this one, but we also talk about something meaningful, what Jerry Seinfeld calls garbage time. Those small, seemingly insignificant moments with our kids that in hindsight become the most important ones. It's a reminder that parenting isn't always about doing more. It's about being present for what matters most. But before we dive in, I want to take a moment to say thank you to my amazing wife, Amanda, who's been my partner in every stage of the parenting journey. She's an amazing mom. To my own mom, who gave me the foundation and love that I'm now trying to pass on to my own kids, and to all the moms who listen to this show. Thank you for everything that you do, both seen and unseen. So, with that, grab your green notebooks and please welcome to the show, Danny Ricker.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me, man.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for making time. I was thinking about doing a special Mother's Day episode, and I reached out to all these parenting experts who had published books, and you were the only one who wrote me back. So thanks for coming today.
Well, and unfortunately for you, I don't know that I'm an expert either, but I'll do my best.
No, I'm just joking. A mutual friend Billy told me about your book, immediately downloaded it, and to the chagrin of my wife, or just like, Joe, please stop. I kept playing your chapters for her. I was like, listen to this, listen to this. So we were like dying laughing.
Thank you.
But like you write, so your book, Wow, You Look Terrible, How to Parent Less and Live More. You write that being a parent to young children is like being a personal assistant to Kanye West.
Mm-hmm.
You need to sort through which demands require the attention of a human adult. And that is so true.
Yeah. Kind of the general idea of the book is I felt like, the more I became a parent, the less I became myself, and a human. I say in the book that I realized at some point I was more of my children's service animal than this person I was, before I had kids. And so, this is a comedy book for sure. It's written for laughs, but, I do hope parents feel seen by this book. And it makes me happy to hear you and your wife are listening to it and go, oh my God, like we've done this, we've gone through that. It's, I'm trying to kind of help people realize that we don't maybe need to parent as hard as we're parenting. I think the basics are important for sure. And your kids need to know that you love them and that you're always there for them. But a lot of stuff we do beyond that is maybe unnecessary. And that's sort of, while it's wrapped in humor, that's kind of the message of the book I'm trying to get out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we've gotten caught up in that too, is we'll see something on Instagram or social media that like some other parent is doing, whether we know them or not, and be like, oh man, like, well, maybe we need to have this like over the top birthday party in the backyard that ends up taking like it's planned with, like the same amount of effort and energy that maybe, I don't know, that you would do the invasion of a country on.
Yeah. We, our kids' birthdays are 6 months apart in the year. And so my wife and I always feel like we're planning a birthday party at every week of the year where it's either coming or, we're recovering from one. So yeah, I'm with you. I feel like all a kid needs is you need like a bunch of refined sugars and like a bounce house. And that's kind of it. I think there's a very performative form of parenting that I think happens online that I think is predominantly to shame other parents. But I think, again, if you really ask your kid, what do you want? It would cost you about $80, I think, to throw a party that your kid would be just as thrilled with.
Yeah, and one of your things I think you should trademark all these is the 17-minute birthday party. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I set out a very tight timetable for the 17-minute birthday party, and I posit that you can get everything your kid wants done in 17 minutes. And there's a bounce house, there's a cake, there's a clown, there's all that kind of stuff. This is something you'll know about more than me, actually. I say it's kind of like a military strike, where it's like you've got at very specific increments of time, you're getting all these things done. And then at the end of that 17 minutes, your kid slips into like a euphoric coma and you have the rest of your Saturday.
Yeah, it's great. So could you talk about some of the aspects of it? Like, like everything from the welcoming of friends to, like even like the present wrapping aspect of it.
Yeah, so I say, and again, this is all tongue in cheek, but this is something that if we could actually do this, I think would get very popular. Okay. So, I say, first of all, it needs to be done on a Saturday at 10 a.m. because I think some birthdays get right in the middle of the day. Like if you get invited to like your kid's friend's birthday party and they go, it's at 1 o'clock, you go, like there's nothing else is going to happen in your Saturday if you're going to a birthday party at 1 o'clock. So I think 10 a.m. is good. You have everyone line up. They show the present to your child as they walk in. They're unwrapped because the unwrapping of presents, I don't know, I think it was more common when you and I were kids, but you used to open all of your presents at the party, and it's A, it's awkward, and B, it takes I mean easily 45 minutes where you're opening the presents and you got to write down who gave what. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, we actually we quit doing that after I think our oldest son, he's 14 now, but like when he
Uh,
was younger, it was like throwing like a piece of meat into a den of hyenas. Like we're
yes.
trying to push the other kids back, like, hey, give them space. Like
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
trying to open the present after it's been unwrapped, like
yeah,
right in front of them. It just got like it was very emotional.
yeah.
It was really tough. So we ended up just saying, hey, we'll open them later.
Yeah, and then they kind of get that's like dessert for your kid later. It's like yeah, it's actually motivation to get all the kids out of your house. You're like, hey, once your friends leave, then you can open the present. Then your
Yeah.
kids helping get everybody out of there. Yeah, but then you can have a party clown. There's no reason that clown needs to do more than one trick. You put the kids in a bounce house, you throw the cake in there so they can do those things at the same time. And then at some point you blow an air horn, you go, all right, it's time to get the hell out of here. And the kids all leave. And your kid had at that point cake, a clown, presents, and like then it's only 10:17 on a Saturday. You got your whole damn day ahead of you. That's just good business if you ask me.
Yeah, and you still get the pictures for social media of the kids in the.
Exactly. Yeah, see, I love the way you're thinking. This is perfect.
Yeah, again, I thought like even though a lot of this stuff was tongue in cheek, I was like maybe Danny's onto something. And then like the after the party, you play for the presents for a couple days, and
Hmm.
then you lose interest in the present, and then you start finding bits of the presents around the house. Is that the same experience you've had?
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of this stuff is tongue in cheek, but it's all based on a real thought I've had or a real observation I have, and I have a chapter where I recommend throwing away your children's stuff, and what I mean by that is, I think, you're when you have kids, your house is just a disaster all the time, and I make the delineation between things and stuff. Now, things are like you have to have those to raise your kids. There's like the high chair, the car seat, like those are non-negotiables, right? You got to have those. But stuff, I think, is a real danger to your time as a parent because I walk around my house every second I'm not at work. I walk around my house, I'm just picking things up, and what I define as stuff is just that random sort of like debris, and it's like it's like a Barbie shoe and a Lego and a nickel and just all these like random things, right? Like your kid's lucky nickel, not even like a nickel you could spend on something. It's like, no, that is like a cherished item. That's like their best friend for that week or whatever.
Yeah.
And so what I recommend in the book is like when you get a handful of that stuff, instead of spending your evening walking around your house going like, where does all this stuff go? You just throw it away. And that's a huge time saver. But of course, the danger is that your kid's going to go, well, where's my lucky nickel? That's my best friend. I can't possibly go to school without my lucky nickel in my pocket. So I invented something called the Purgatory Cabinet in our home. And the Purgatory Cabinet, again, now this is a real thing. And this has resonated with America. I can tell you, every person who has read my book has texted me going, we now have a Purgatory Cabinet in our house, and it's changing lives already, which I'm very excited about. But the way the Purgatory Cabinet works is if you have something that you want to get rid of, your kid has, but you're worried they're going to miss it and then it's going to cause a whole thing, you place the item in a cabinet for 7 days. And if your kid doesn't ask about it at the end of the week, you are free to throw it away. But if your kid goes, oh my God, where's my lucky nickel? You go, you know what? I put it in this cabinet for safekeeping, and here it is. Aren't I a thoughtful parent? And it's kind of a foolproof system. We had one time at a birthday party, our son got a goodie bag that had a whistle in it. Which, by the way, if you are a parent putting a whistle in goodie bags, you deserve to go to prison. I believe. But so
Karma will come back, and your kid's getting a drum set for Christmas.
yeah. I mean, it was like to give 30 kids a whistle and just send them home. It seemed like cruel and unusual, if you ask me. But so our son, who was 5, was just blowing a whistle like all day long. And so the whistle went into the Purgatory Cabinet and then eventually went into the garbage. And I mean that he'd still have it to this day if we hadn't intervened. So that's a little tip I'm trying to pass on to parents that I think is going to make a difference.
I think that's great because if you think about it, like why are we holding on to this? Like, I know my mom and dad listen to this episode, so I'm sorry, but like we we came like after our son was born, we visited the house and they immediately brought out this like bin of He-Man uh that had been like sitting in an attic and had like stuff melted all over them
Mm,
for I don't know, like 20, 30, 40 years, whatever. Like I think I quit playing with them at like 7 or 8.
uh-huh.
And yeah, I don't remember my son necessarily like gravitating towards them in that moment.
Yeah. Well, I know, and it is funny. Like I'm very much a purger, like in general. Like my actually just last week, my mom gave me a big bin of stuff from like my junior high and high school years, and she's like, "I held on to these for you." So I mean, this has been 25 years at least, right? And I went through it and I threw almost all of it away because it was like, I mean, literally, I had a certificate for like a clean dental checkup in there from when I was like 12, and my mom held on to this for all these years, and then it just went right in the garbage, and like. Um, the actually our we were before we got on we were talking about Ryan Holiday, who I'm a huge fan of, and he did this thing that really stuck with me where he has a Grammy, but on the Grammy he wrote, "This too will end up in the garbage someday," or something to that effect. And that really stuck with me because it is true. It's like even if you won like an Academy Award, right? Like your kids would want that after you die for sure. And then their kids would want it. But then at some point, like your great grandchildren, like they never even knew you. They don't care. That's gonna end up in a Goodwill or something like that. And it's almost narcissistic for us to hold on to like junk and go, our kids will want this someday. So generally speaking, I try to exercise a little stoicism with my own junk and also and my kids' stuff too.
Yeah. Are you guys aligned with that? Or is like, cause my wife, that's her MO. Like you and her are the exact same.
Mhm.
I will hold on to stuff. I'm like, oh, this newspaper clipping from 1995, like maybe, I don't know, maybe a value one day.
You
And
know, and that surprised me to hear you say because I would assume, like, as a military guy, like, I assume, like, you must be so utilitarian, right? Like, if it doesn't have an immediate need, it's out of here. But that it's sweet to hear that you are nostalgic about things like that.
no, the first time that we actually did like this like cleansing of stuff, so like something with the military for us are TV boxes. And so like you have to move with your TV boxes. And so we've moved like 12 times, I think, over 20 years. So we'll get a TV, we'll put the box in the attic. The box takes up a ton of room because it's like, 50, 60-inch TV. And we
Hmm.
just keep moving around with these boxes. And when it's time to move, the movers put it in the box, goes to the next place. So like the biggest thing for us when I retired was like throwing away the TV boxes. But then for the first time, I was like, do I really need this, special flashlight anymore that I've been
Yeah,
carrying around for 15? No, or do we need this anymore? So it's I'm learning. I'm learning. But every
yeah.
time we've moved, she's tried to like do the great purge. And I've always like fought back, like, no, we gotta hold on to this thing.
Well, I hope your wife listens to this and comes up with a purgatory cabinet for you because I think it might work. You can use the purgatory cabinet on adults too. That's okay.
She actually, we talked about this, and she is like, for clothes, that's my like thing is I keep buying stuff. And
Hmm.
she's like, you haven't worn this in, months, or like you may worn it once in the last year. So I think there may be like I may start seeing stuff disappear
Yeah, you have a few
in my
empty
closet.
hangers and be like, yeah, what happened to that?
Yeah, thanks to you, Danny. Well, let's the another aspect of parenting that I've talked to a lot of folks like is working out, because you have to, are you going to pay for a gym membership, or are you going to pay for your kid to do an activity? Are you going to take time to go to the gym, or do you have to make sure homework's done and
Hmm.
and your responsibilities as a parent? And so I think like working out is the first thing to go, but you figured out a way to combine both of these.
Well, the good news is you're already working out as a parent and you didn't even know it. I lay out a couple of exercise routines in the book. Like for instance, like if you go to a theme park or like a botanical garden or the zoo or something like that, and you're unloading your kids and you realize you forgot to bring the stroller. The good news is you are now the stroller, which is basically an all day full body hit workout because you're carrying your kids, you're carrying their food, their water. You're like a pack mule basically going through the Columbia River Gorge. And that's like I don't I run a little bit. That's basically all I have time for. And I wish I really had more time to like strength train, but there's kind of like there's a parent like toning of the body I've noticed where I go, yeah, I'm just always walking around and like I'm this morning my son hates getting out of bed for school. And so every morning I pretend that he's like a toy in a claw machine and I'm the claw. And so he's pretending to be asleep and I put a quarter in and I make this little, this little music and then he starts laughing and he grips his mattress as hard as he can and then I'm pretending I'm the claw, like pulling him out of the bed. And it takes like a good 10 minutes. And then I go at the end of it, I go, that was basically like me doing like 30 push-ups probably. I mean,
Yeah.
just the extent of that. And so while someday I dream of actually like having muscle mass, I'm getting a little of it just in my day to day.
That's amazing. As we were talking before, we just moved from Europe. And so every time we had a chance, and we knew we were only going to be there for 2 years. So every free moment we had, we're like, we have to go here, we have to go here. And I remember we were in Norway. It was December. It was like negative whatever degrees.
Hmm.
And we were at the base of this hill that we had to walk up, with steep incline to get back to the house. And like, I'm already a little bit winded because I walked halfway and my daughter, who's at the time, she was like 5 or 6 and she has like, like little 3 feet legs. And so she's like, Daddy, will you carry me? And I was like, oh God. And so it was like, I had to
You can't say no to that question ever, right? Like you imagine like at the end of your life, is that being played back to you going, no, I won't carry you. I mean, like you're like, I can't have that on my permanent record.
yeah.
So you go, yes, of course I'll carry you.
And it's the cross between a weighted vest and a bag of snakes that's constantly it's constantly moving as you're walking up this hill. And I
Yeah.
was like, please, like, can you make this easier on me? And so I was like completely winded by the top, but I got a great workout in the process.
I love the idea that like someone who's been in the military for 20 years and been through basic training and all this stuff, you'd be like, yeah, it makes me feel better to hear that even you have like carrying a kid up a hill is still a hassle for you.
Yeah, yeah. And another one that was that really resonated with me. I remember we were driving somewhere. We're driving cross Germany or something. And my wife's like, hey, like I'll drive. I was like, really? She's like, yeah. So I jump in the passenger seat and I'm like, this is perfect. I got my Kindle out. I'm gonna read. I'm just gonna relax. And then I found out that like, no, that there's a very specific responsibility when sitting in the passenger seat of a car.
Yeah, my wife coined a phrase for this, which is snack bitch. I'm sorry to swear it on your podcast,
You're
but
good. You're good. This will be a
yeah.
special parents episode with the
Okay.
E for explicit for mothers.
But yeah, my wife coined this phrase and we realized it's true. It's like, yeah, if you're driving, like, yeah, you got to be paying attention, but the parent that's in the passenger seat on a road trip, you become like a vending machine for the kids basically. And so they're like, "Hey, I'm hungry. Hey, I'm thirsty." And you've got all the snacks, and so you become like the waiter at like a tapas restaurant basically, where you're just like you're feeding them constantly. If their headphones aren't working for the iPad, you become the IT person all of a sudden. Like it is a full-time job for the 8 hours you're on the road. And so weirdly, it's like less stressful to drive an SUV across country than it is to sit in the passenger seat.
Yeah, I found that we were like actually like I never thought I would get to a point in my life where you were trying to vie for the driver
I know.
because like as soon and it was inevitable as soon as you pick up the book or as soon as you like start nodding off, a headphone quits working.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the battery charger? And then the snacks. Yeah, like but
Yeah.
you just ate. We just stopped for lunch.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
do you
And
need? Yeah.
yeah, and God forbid one of your kids gets car sick, and then suddenly you're like the bedside nurse with the barf bag, and like I mean it's like and you're in like you're strapped in and they're strapped in, so it's not like it's suddenly it's like harder, like you're doing like Pilates to get them like snacks in a barf bag, and yeah, it's a nightmare.
Does your I don't have this, but does your wife have a special like the joint in her arm is able to do things that your arm can't. As
Yes.
far as
Yeah.
like reaching back to like even looking backwards, like looking forward, my wife can reach her arm into the back seat and like manipulate objects, which I'm completely amazed about.
Yeah, and there's like a form of like ESP where like she doesn't even have to look. Like she knows. Like I guarantee she could without looking get a barf bag under one of our kids' mouths and like catch it. It's just it's sort of a parental form of telekinesis.
Yeah, I thought it was great that you point out that like, hey, glass half full, you could be getting a workout while you're parenting.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that a big part of the book, I think, is just coming to terms with your reality and also like being okay with that. Because I have felt a lot of shame over the years being like, oh, yeah, I don't exercise like I used to. And I'd be like, yeah, also like I'm really busy. Like I work a lot of hours and then I come home to another full-time job, which is like raising my kids and making sure they're cared for emotionally and physically and so no, I'm working two full-time jobs. It's like, yeah, okay. It's if my number of sit-ups I do has decreased, I have a good reason, and that's okay.
Well, I'll share something with you, just as part of the shaming aspect, but is so I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but in 2020, I came back from Afghanistan, and over there we were doing this like it was every Sunday. It was called Resolute Support, which was the name of the mission. It was called
Mhm.
Resolute Support Fitness Opportunities. And so we did this course every Sunday, and there was a mixture of running, different weight exercises, lunges, push-ups, all that stuff. And I missed that when I got home. So I was like, hey, let's start doing family fitness opportunities. And I think my son was 9 or 10 at the time when we started doing this. My daughter was like we were pushing her in the stroller, and sometimes like
Mhm.
she would toddle. And so we're still doing this like now.
Wow.
But like my body, because there's something that happens when you're over 40. I don't know if you've experienced this, but like things hurt more, stuff starts
Mhm.
breaking down. It gets a little bit harder to maintain things. And so now my son, who it was like fighting him all those years to like finish the lap or to do one more push up, whatever. Now he's like talking shit to me as he's 14, he's talking shit. And like it pissed me off this past Saturday. Like he gave me an entire block head start. And and then like ran up to me and was like pointed out, he's like, Dad, I'm not even breathing heavy. And he's like, you sound like you're dying right now. And then he like took off. And I was like, what have I done?
Yeah, my kids make a lot of fun of me, for sure. What that's kind of my love language. I think as a comedy writer, I enjoy getting roasted. So yeah, there's a lot of that in my house. I will say, good for you for starting your kids on something like that early. We did not, and it's a struggle to get our kids to, I mean, like walk to the coffee shop around the corner. It's like with so much complaining, and once they get out and start doing it, they do enjoy it. But the fact that your kids are like sprinting around the block, I'm very impressed by that.
Yeah, but then like the flip side of it is now you have like 3, 4 foot, and now he's taller than me, like 5'8" shit talkers. And so there's maybe like if I could go back and do it in time, I would, maybe do something differently. But it's awesome. She's there. Like my daughter's on the assault bike. She's 7, and she's like pushing it. I'm like, man, you're a beast. You're like a little Wolverine.
Yeah.
But it's definitely awesome. And same for me. Like as far as like the roasting goes, like I don't know about you, but like I thought I was really cool before I had kids, and now I'm like a bumbling idiot. Like if the other day we were talking about doing something, my son's like, no, Dad, you're gonna embarrass me. I'm like, dude, when have I ever embarrassed you? Like I've always been very conscious of not doing that. He's like, remember in first grade when you like went to go drop me off in front of the school, and you went to open my door and slipped in black ice and ate it in front of my teachers? Like that was so embarrassing. I'm like, dude, I got hurt.
Also, like, how do you remember that still? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I think we had President Obama on our show years ago, but he was talking about how like he's like, yeah, I'm the president of the United States. And Sasha and Malia are just roasting me at the dinner table. And he goes, Even if you're the president, that's the dynamic in your house," which I found comforting. And yeah, our family, we tease each other a lot very playfully. And that's how we kind of, that's how we show love. But at some point recently, I had to remind my kids, go, hey, like, I think it's funny when you make fun of me, but like, don't do that to like others outside the house, because
Yeah.
like you could like savagely roast one of your friends and really upset them. So I go, you kind of got to feel it out. There's a nuance here.
Yeah. It's some great dad advice. Well, something else that you talk about too, in the book is like, saving money.
Hmm.
And one of the ways I think is like, I thought this was a huge rite of passage when I became a parent, was like, as soon as my daughter could open her, or my kids could open their eyes, like I was like, we have to make the pilgrimage to Disney World for them
Hmm.
to go do these things.
Hmm.
And then I found out like they got to be a little bit older, like all that stuff matters. But same with you, right?
Yeah, we now my daughter's 11 and my son is 7. Now Disneyland is fun. But again, that it took us like over a decade to get to the point where like now it's worth the like $700 you have to spend to go there. And so yeah, we took our daughter, we took her for her second birthday, and we were going
Ooh,
like, yeah, we're like, oh, this is like, we got her the mini ears and the, like, this is going to be great. And it was just a nightmare. I mean, it really like, and I think it stings at Disneyland because you're supposed to have the best time ever here. And then you're like, yeah, but really you're taking a 2-year-old to wait in lines all day. And, the kids don't understand that, and they don't understand you spent a lot of money. They're just sort of like, why did you bring me here? And it's hot, and I can't ride most of these rides, and like all this kind of stuff. So I think it's hard if your kid is 2. I know this is hard to hear, but like wait 6 more years before you take them to do, and then take them twice a year or whatever you want to do, but it's you can make up for lost time when they're older. But it's basically, and you can't go to Disneyland for less than 12 hours, or, like, you can't just like, oh, we'll just pop over to Disneyland for
you
90
got to
minutes. And then
maximize it. Yeah.
you got to maximize. Also, like, if they have to nap, like, where are they supposed to nap at Disneyland? One time we were there, I think our daughter was maybe, oh no, it was our son. So, but our son was like 2, and it's like, it's time to nap. And so we were in California Adventure, and it was pouring rain, and our son would only sleep if he was in a moving stroller. And so just for, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, 2 hours, I just walked around in a circle. I was soaking wet. I mean, soaking wet. And finally he fell asleep. But we're like, if this kid doesn't sleep for like 40 minutes, like, we're gonna have to leave. Like there's no bouncing back from this. So it's hard. And jokingly in the book, but I recommend, like, don't take them to theme parks. Don't travel with them. Don't take them to restaurants. It's like, until they're a certain age, the cost benefit analysis is not in your favor until they're like at least 7 years old.
No, I remember I was talking to my son. I was telling my son that I was interviewing you. We had a conversation this morning, which, by the way, in retirement out of the military and now being a writer is awesome, because I get to like see my kids in the morning, which
It's
I didn't get to
fantastic.
do before. But we had this conversation, and we were talking about the first time I took him to Disneyland. And I told him, because like he's 7 and I'm trying to like make him a man, I told him that the Guardians of Adventure, or Guardians of the Galaxy ride, was
Mhm.
a character meet and greet, which I think it was like a repurposed Space Mountain or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. It was called Tower of Terror before. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's Tower of Terror. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I told him it was a meet and greet, and like completely freaks him out. Like, but he like did it. And so like I was trying to be like, hey, look, buddy, you did it. And so now like there's like zero trust, like on anything, like another story. And I'm just bashing myself as a dad, but we were in Greece and Athens a couple of Thanksgivings ago, again, being in Europe, taking
Hmm.
advantage of it. And sometimes with us, and it may be the same with your son, like I go from a 43-year-old man to like a 12-year-old kid with
Yeah.
my maturity level. So I'm chasing him down the stairs of this like marble staircase in Athens. The lights go out because it was like an energy conservation or whatever. I miss a step
Oh
and
no.
just like roll my ankle. It was terrible.
Oh.
Like I fell down. I do like a combat roll, and I'm feeling myself starting to like black out. Like I'm
Oh,
sweating,
geez. Oh,
like
no.
the color came out of my face. And I'm like, Brady, give me your water. And he's like, nah, not today, Dad. Not falling for this one. So thankfully my wife like showed up right after that and was like, oh my God, Dad's hurt. And so now we have like, I was like, hey buddy, but like, look at all the stuff you do now. This was this morning. I was like, look at all the
Mhm.
stuff you do now. Like, you're not afraid of anything. He's like, yeah, but I don't trust you at all. Okay. There's a
We have
trade-off.
yeah, we have a little thing I've always done to my kids, and now that they caught on to it. But if they have like a toy that's like annoying, if it's like something that they keep like hitting the button over and over again, I used to go, oh, let me see that real quick. And of course, naturally someone would just hand something to you, or I go, oh, I think that's broken, let me fix it. And they'd hand it to me, and then jokingly I'd just like put it on top of like a tall cabinet where they couldn't get to it. But now if I go, let me see that real quick, they just start laughing at me. They're like, no,
Oh,
no, we know what this is.
they're onto you. Well, like so you're saving like so again, we've talked about working out, saving time, saving money at the birthday party. The other like genius idea you had in here was the ruin room.
Yeah, this is another good, it's a book of comedy essays, but I do think I
But
accidentally
you
put
have
a
some bright
couple
spots in
good,
there.
yeah, yeah, some like I like accidentally put a few good nuggets of advice in here, but so and this goes with like keeping your house clean, which is just a nonstop. It's Sisyphean. It's pushing a boulder up the hill. You will never get a clean house. But one way to mitigate it, I think, is you give your kids a room or a corner of a room where you just say, this your junk has diplomatic immunity in this room or this corner where you go, this can be a disaster at all times. You never have to pick it up. All other areas of the house you do need to clean. Like you need to take your plate, to the sink after dinner, all that kind of stuff. But this room or this corner of the room can just get annihilated. And then also you don't feel the guilt of having to pick it up because you go, well, yeah, that's the ruin room. That's the room that God forgot. Okay. Like no matter what happens, that's going to be a disaster. And it takes guilt off of you. And then the kids they like that they can just trash a room like an 80s metal band, like it's just fine. Just make it, just destroy it and it's okay.
And was that an actual picture of your daughter's nightstand
It was,
from?
it was, I have a picture in the book of our daughter. I mean, still to this day, her nightstand is like crazy, but I think she was like 4 or 5 years old. And the unique combination of things she had on her nightstand, and that was one area we told her, we're like, hey, nightstand, you can leave whatever you want on there. But it had like an old landline telephone that didn't work anymore, a bowl of cherry tomatoes, like a hand painted unicorn head. She had a framed picture of our friend's cat. Like we don't have a cat, but she had a framed pic. I mean, it was really, it was like, it looked like a weird like art installation kind of. And so, but well, hey, you know what? If that's what you want next to your head while you're sleeping, then fine.
I love that. And so it's interesting. Our son is like me, totally messy. Like I have to work at it. My wife is very clean.
Hmm.
She's like the person that keeps our house in order. And my daughter has like picked that up too. Like everything has a place. And
Hmm.
so I had to go run some errands and I came back one day and I've been doing like some book research. And so I had like books stacked up and I couldn't even remember what books I had. I just knew that like I had picked the right ones I needed. So I came back home and my daughter was like, she's like, Dad, I helped you out today. I'm like, what did you do? She's like, I cleaned up your office. I put all the books back. And so I had to spend like the last week because I have like a lot of books, like figuring out like what she put back and where she
Yeah.
put it back. And
Hmm.
so yeah, so we lucked out. She's clean, but she's also she'll take it upon herself to just clean things that don't need to be cleaned.
Yeah, that seems like a good problem to have. I think better than the opposite. For some reason, our daughter has like started using me and my wife's like bathroom in our bedroom. Like the kids have their own
Oh man.
bathroom, but my daughter's been like, I think I want to use your bathroom. I was like, okay. And she's just leaving. I mean, there's like stormtrooper toys in our shower. Like there's like our kids use this bright blue toothpaste, and that is like everywhere, And so I was like, suddenly now I'm like, the point of like the parents' bathroom is it's like, yeah, it's a little nicer, it's a little cleaner. And again, we gave you a bathroom you guys could ruin. Blue toothpaste could be all over that bathroom, but suddenly now it's drifted down the hall into our space too. And so
Yeah.
I wish my daughter was as fastidious as yours.
Well, wait till your son gets older. Like he's done the same thing. Like he keeps moving into our stuff. And I got a text, um, like this week I was traveling and got a text and it was like, "Hey dad, where are my shorts?" And I was like, "Dude, like those and it was a specific brand." He's like, "Where are these?" And I was like, "Those aren't your shorts, man. Like they're mine." Like,
You're like, I have them on the trip I'm on. Yeah.
yeah, I did. I had them with me. He was like, "Fine." And I was like, "What? Like what's happened?" Yeah. So it's definitely an evolution, the different stages of parenting. I'd like to introduce you to our newest partner, Roger Bank, a modern digital military bank built by military members for military members. Whether you're stationed stateside or overseas, Roger is designed to meet the unique needs of our men and women in uniform. I recently opened an account myself, and the process was incredibly smooth. It took less than 10 minutes from start to finish. Now, here's why I'm excited to partner with Roger. They offer high yield checking and savings accounts, zero account fees, early payday, and automatic savings with Roundup Match. Their military ready direct deposit form is even auto populated and signed by the CEO, saving you time and hassle. Plus, you get free global ATM access, real person customer support, and they even offer accounts for service members as young as 17. Funds are FDIC insured through Citizens Bank of Edmond, so you can bank with confidence and peace of mind. Visit roger.bank to learn more. That's ROGER.bank.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, and they're all unique, they're all fun. They're like I as hard as the little kid phase was, I miss it, and like
Yeah.
I'm glad I have friends who have kids that are younger than me. Like one of my best friends has a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and when he comes over, I'm like, oh yeah, this is like fun. I don't have the responsibility of this. Like I'm kind of like an uncle to them where I get to kind of play with them and do whatever, and then they go home and their parents deal with the tantrums and all that kind of stuff. But I like my favorite age of a kid is probably like 4 or 5 because you can joke with them and they don't understand you're joking with them, which is like my favorite as a comedy writer is so fun. And like I kept like telling my friend Josh, his daughter's 4, and I kept telling her she has bunk beds in her room, and I was like, I'm gonna come over for a sleepover at your guys' house, and I'm gonna bring a big bowl of spaghetti, and I'm gonna sit on the top bunk. I'm gonna eat the spaghetti, and she's like, no, don't do that. I'm gonna get spaghetti on me while I'm sleeping. I'm like, it'll be fine. And so every time I see her, I keep telling her we're gonna have the spaghetti sleepover, and she 100% believes me, and it makes me so happy that she's like, there's this insane man who's going to bring a big bowl of
Yeah.
spaghetti and eat it over.
That's awesome,
And
man.
it's great. And eventually she'll figure out I'm just kidding and trying to make her laugh, but she hasn't figured it out yet, which is fun.
That's great. And like I think like we were talking about, like it's a humorous book, but I love your message in the end,
Hmm.
which is like, and it was something I realized too. For me, like just because of my schedule, like I was working 70 hours a week, like
Hmm.
I've heard some people in the military refer to this is terrible, like families as lump families. Like
Mm.
they leave for work and they're a lump in the bed, and then they come home and they're a lump in the bed.
Wow.
And so like, you would work like 70-hour weeks, you come home, you're tired, you've been at work since like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the
Hmm.
morning. It's 5:30, 6 o'clock at night on a low end, and you just get tired, but you're like, hey, we're going to, this theme park in a couple weeks, or we're going on this awesome trip that we put together in a couple weeks. And now that I'm retired and in this new phase of my life, I'm realizing that like just the evening, like hanging out and, helping with homework, or the conversation with my daughter on the way to school of like, why don't I have a cool car like the other parents? Like
Hmm.
those are like the priceless moments that I think sometimes when you get caught up in the social media shaming that like you forget about. And that's what you really like your whole conclusion of the book is about.
Yeah, I think you're what a lot of people don't realize is like you're doing a better job parenting than you think. And exactly what you're saying. It's like there's the performative stuff, and but then there's also the simple moments. There's that great quote Ryan has used before. I think it's a Jerry Seinfeld thing, but it's like talking about garbage time, right?
Yeah,
And it's
garbage time.
like
Yes.
I that stuck with me so much when I read that because you and look at, I have a couple examples in the book. Like looking back on my life, I go, yeah, I don't remember really any like vacations I took. I know we went on vacation when I was a kid, but I don't remember like that. Or like I know we went to Disneyland, but I can't tell you like, oh, that time we went, we rode this, right? It's just it. I know that happened, but like the moments I remember, it's like, yeah, like building like a Pinewood Derby car with my dad for the Boy Scouts. And like, it was a moment that my dad doesn't even remember, I'm sure. It was for him, it was like part of a Saturday, but I go, oh yeah, that. Or, just the little moments of like kindness and warmth and humor. And like those are the things that as a 40-year-old man, I remember that. And I don't remember any of my birthday parties, when I was a kid. Like, and I think that's what I'm trying to remember in my life, and I'm hoping to sort of pass along to parents in their life too. And I very much identify with what you're saying about your schedule. I mean, I'm a writer, but I work at a TV show that's on the air every day, so it's like the just you teaching me the phrase lump family will now haunt me because I
Sorry,
do
Danny.
no no but there are times like that too. It's like I start really early, and when I get home at night, it's just what you're talking about. You're like, okay, we got about 90 minutes where the kids are still awake, but I'm just I'm so tired. And so um as I've been thinking about, yeah, like, what would the rest of my career look like? I no longer think about what's the job I would want. I think about what's the lifestyle I would
Ah,
want.
yes.
And it's very much what you're talking about, where, even if it's like, yeah, maybe if I worked on a show and my hours are crazy, but it's part of the year, and the other part of the year, I'm home for school pickup and drop off and making dinner and watching dumb YouTube videos with them in the afternoon. It's like that's a lot of the stuff I'm missing, working on a nightly TV show. And so as much as I love my job, I do feel I'm missing some of that stuff, and so that's my vision for the future. Whatever the job ends up being, I do want to I want more garbage time.
Yeah, I was actually like reflecting on this the other day and just talking to folks, and a lot of my folks are in the military, but now like, working with Ryan, like I'm getting to see the other side
Hmm.
of it too. But paper time versus real time. Like I've heard a lot of times like, hey, well, I'm just going to go take this assignment. We have something in the military that is called like geo batching. It's
Hmm.
where like you want to keep your family at the same school or whatever, but it's this amazing job opportunity that's in another state. So I'll just go do this thing and come home, every couple weekends
Hmm.
and, just so I can have this job. And it's like only a year. So like we can do anything for a year. But then I realized like that's paper time. Real time are those small moments that you're talking about. Like the Jerry Seinfeld's garbage time, like
Hmm.
the taking to school, the picking up, the, just random laying around telling jokes on the couch, the,
Hmm.
14-year-old talking trash to you on Saturday morning. Like
Yeah.
those are the things I think that now that I'm older, I'm a lot more cognizant about than I was when I was a younger, very aspiring, like keep climbing the ladder of success type person.
Well, and I have certainly been guilty over the years of a type of thinking of going like, well, I'm gonna work really hard for this many years, and then I can be with
Yeah.
my children. And it's a kind of a form of magical thinking, because work just keeps coming up and opportunities keep coming up. And so one thing I'm personally trying to get better at is just day to day go, okay, even if it's 10 minutes, I'm gonna like, it's usually like when my daughter's going to bed, she's kind of past the point where like, she wants us to read to her, but I go, you know what, like I'm just gonna sit and we'll just kind of talk, and whether that's, if she feels like sharing about her day, great. If we feel like just kind of like joking around, making fun of each other, great. Sometimes we'll like come up with a weird little like game we'll play for 10 minutes, great. It's like even if that's like kind of all I've got in the tank for the day. I'm trying to be better about going like, but I'm gonna give that to you,
That's awesome, man.
whatever I have in reserve. And it's something I'm not perfect at, and I'm trying to get better at it. But I think too, like as our kids have gotten older, I mean, yours are just a couple years older than mine, but I know we're feeling the same thing where I go, oh wow, that went by really fast. Like my daughter, is 11, she's going to middle school and just going like, oh yeah, I've kind of got like she's 11 and there's really only 7 more years and then she could be out of the house and it's going like, oh boy, like that's a gut punch. And also knowing too, like, oh yeah, like when she's a teenager, like she's not gonna want to sit and watch YouTube videos with me. I'm still in that phase, where she's like really into hanging out with me, but I go, oh, that's gonna be gone pretty soon. And so I already feel just a twinge of regret that I, haven't been able to do it more. I mean, I know it's like, being the
Right.
breadwinner is that's responsibility too, but I know that there's not going to be some point where I can go, okay, now they have all my attention, whatever. I just know that's not going to happen. So I'm trying to find just the little nooks and crannies I can to give them what I have.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think like there's something else too that I was like kind of thinking about. And I read it one time and I don't remember where I read it, but it was like a lot of our lives with our kids are a series of last times. Like the
Mm.
last time you'll walk them to school, the last time,
It's
they'll
brutal.
yeah,
It's
they'll do
brutal.
this
Yeah.
thing. And so like even now, like we were talking about spring break this year, and my son's like he's in high school. So like kids are doing stuff together and he's like, I want to go do this thing. And I'm like, dude, you have after this year, you have 3 spring breaks left with us before you're
Yeah.
like doing stuff that was going to keep me up all night in Cancun. Like
Yeah.
we're going to do stuff as a family. Like,
Yeah.
and then after that, you do whatever ever you want. Cause I like now, I guess, like, I don't know if it's a switch we all make when we hit our 40s or something, but it starts
Hmm.
like clicking that like, oh man, like time is slipping.
And it starts to go by faster too. It speeds up. And I don't know if you've read 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman.
Yeah. I interviewed him for the podcast. Huge fan.
That book that's one where I picked up and I read it and I go, oh, I will always remember what I read in this book. Sometimes you read and you go, oh, that was pretty good. And that was like a gut punch. And for those who haven't read it, it's like 4,000 weeks is like, when you ask most people, you're like, how many weeks do you think a human lives? And people go, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000 weeks. It's like if you live a full life, you'll live 4,000 weeks, which is that's way less than people think. And I think it's in the first like chapter of that book, they even say like by the time your kids are like 18, you have spent 90% of the time
Yes.
you will ever spend with them. And I like it makes me emotional even just saying that like that sentence. You're like, oh my God, because you go, well, yeah, I'll know my kids my whole life, but just that like day to day time you are in the house with them is so much shorter than you realize because then, they start to have their own lives and they get married and they have kids and they're busy. And so it's just a good reminder to savor every little dumb moment you can where you and your family are like sitting at the dinner table just making each other laugh and it's like that's like it's so much more precious than you even really realize.
Oh, I love it. And we'll like, I like if you got a little bit more time to
Of
kind of,
course, yeah.
yeah, transition there. Cause I'm really curious about your job. Like um, I was watching the SNL documentary, like on the
Hmm.
staff writers there
Hmm.
and the schedule that they keep. And so ever since then, I'm completely amazed at like the hustle that you guys go into, especially to produce a show 5 nights a week.
Yeah, it's funny. Like so much work goes into making something so dumb and silly. It's so much more than you'd anticipate. And the SNL schedule is like, I mean, we're not there all night. I think there's a freedom to doing a show every day where it's like, we start really early in the morning, but then we tape at 4:30, and it's like, okay, yeah, at 4:30, like we got to be done. And then, so it's kind of like the closest thing you can have to having an office job and being a comedy writer. The hours are still really long, but we tape at 4:30, we're done around 6, and then we can all go home and be home and for dinner and that kind of stuff. So there's a benefit there. But yeah, it's relentless. I don't pretend that it's anywhere near like the type of work like you've done, and we're very cognizant of like people like you have, made sacrifices so silly people like us can do, we have the freedom to do dumb stuff like we do. But it's a lot. It's relentless. It's fun, but it can be stressful. It can be, hard a lot, but also the product at the end of the day is like a silly little comedy show. So you can't take it too seriously.
Well, I think like this is something that I've come to realize, especially doing this podcast and interviewing folks. And people may disagree with me, but I don't care. Like, I think it's all relative. Like,
Mhm.
I do think that, like, yeah, the stakes are higher a lot of times, but even then, like, the stakes come in like peaks throughout a 20-year career. Like,
Mhm.
out of 20 years, I was deployed overseas in harm's way. Like 3 years out of that 20. Now I was training and doing dangerous things, but like there was still, like, again, it's all relative. So I think just this idea of you by 4:30 in the afternoon, like, it's got to be done.
Mhm.
So like the pressure to produce something, and you have to stay relevant throughout that process. Like, again, I think it's, you know, you could take somebody from the military and put them on, working on your staff. And I think they would feel the same level of stress that they felt like serving just to try to get something done by a certain time.
Yeah, we had a writer's assistant for a while who was in the military, and he and he had said, he goes, yeah, I kind of feel, like in the regiment of the day is like something he was kind of familiar with. But yeah, I mean, just start the real basic oversight of our day. It's like we start at about 6:30 in the morning. We look at what the news is. We start getting these like topics from a writer's assistant, going like, okay, here's all the big stories we might cover today. And all the writers just start reading and digesting the news and kind of going, okay, what do we think about this? And what do we want to say about it? And what's the funniest way to say what we want to say about it? And we all start writing material. And then we send Jimmy, he gets a packet that's about 40 or 50 pages long at about 9 a.m. of like all the stuff we've written. And then that goes from 50 pages down to about 3 pages in, like 20 minutes. He just buzzes through it, picks all the stuff he wants to do. So you have to have a thick skin for sure, because you just like, another late night writer said this once. It's, I think, the perfect analogy. It's like being a late night writer is just like you're writing into a paper shredder. It's like you
I
like
love that.
write, and it just goes away, and you're like, okay, and like, but like maybe one of your jokes got picked from that. You go, okay, I got one on the board. I'm gonna write some more, and then 95% of that gets thrown away, and it's just a game of like kind of attrition over the day, where it's like you start with so much, but that gets boiled down to the best stuff. And it's just, we're doing that all day long, and we're out shooting sketches. And if you come up with an idea at 7 o'clock in the morning at your house and it gets approved, it's like then by 10:30 you might be on set somewhere with actors and live animals or whatever your idea was, and you're shooting it, and then you're editing it, and you're racing to that 4:30 deadline. And then it plays for a live audience of 200 in our studio, and many more people at home. And then it's done, and you get up and you do it the next day. And one thing that I really enjoy about that is, if you had a really bad day, like if you had just a sketch that just bombed and you're like embarrassed, you get a chance the next day for redemption. And if you had a sketch that killed, you really can't be too high on yourself for that long, because you got to get up and do it again the next day. And so it keeps you humble kind of in both directions. You're like,
Yeah.
nothing's that bad and nothing's that great, because we have another show tomorrow.
Well, I'm curious, like the development of that ego too, because like in the military, a lot of like what you do, especially as an officer, you spend time on staff,
Hmm.
and essentially, like, it's like being the scratch paper for the
Yeah.
commanding officer. And so you will spend days sometimes working on a presentation, and like none of it makes it into the final brief. And so I think, like, a lot of times people they get their feelings hurt. They feel like stepped on, like, oh, what I'm doing like doesn't matter. And they forget like the scratch paper part of it. And I think that's like over time is something that you eventually develop. Is it kind of the same thing in the writer's world too?
100%. And I think if you're someone who writes movies, it's like, okay, yeah, you could work on a movie script for 10 years, right? And then you turn it over, and then someone goes, The ending, you're like personally, you're like, oh my God, like this means so much to me and whatever. And so sort of the beauty of being a late night writer is like you just can't be precious about anything. And I think the first couple years I was a writer, I'd really take it on the chin, if like I wrote something and oh, Jimmy didn't like it or the audience didn't laugh at it, it would ruin my week, right? But now I just know like yeah, hey, even if I think the joke is good and it would have worked, it's like, yeah, Jimmy's like, I didn't want to do that. It's like, okay, well, I'll write you 10 more and maybe you'll like one of those. And it's just like, you can't survive in a job like this if you're taking everything so personally. And so it's been good. And I think it's gone to other aspects of my life too. It's like, as I've done
Yeah.
other gigs and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, like if I'm writing a commercial and a client goes, yeah, I don't like that, I go, okay, here, how about this? How about this? How about this? And it's like my emotion has been taken out of my work. I think in the good way. I still have the passion for the work and I want it to be good, but I don't focus on the negative if I get any kind of bad feedback. It's data. It's not like a personal attack.
Yeah, it's great. And it's same for me. Like I remember like one of the first like helping Ryan on a book.
Hmm.
And we've got track changes in a Google Doc, and you start seeing like your like the stuff that I put into it getting denied, denied, denied,
Uh-huh.
denied. And so you're just like, all right, well, didn't like it. So is there anything that like Jimmy does or that you do now as a head writer? Because again, you're bringing up these younger writers that are
Hmm.
one day going to be in your position
Hmm.
to like help make that blow a little bit, like to help them get back on their feet the next day when a sketch bombs, or when it's been a week and Jimmy hasn't picked any of their material. Like, have you watched him do anything, or do you do anything to kind of help smooth that out a little bit?
Yeah, I've talked to like writers who have like come to me for counsel on such things over the years. The thing I just always try to say is like even if something you wrote didn't get picked, it doesn't mean it wasn't good or there wasn't value to it. It's like we have a very specific job, which is like we're writing for this one guy. And that guy, he's the one that has to go out on TV and say it. So of course he should get to choose what he likes and doesn't like or whatever. And we can't control that outcome. We can't control whether he says it. We can't control if the audience laughs at it. That part is outside of it. This is where I think the lessons of the Stoics really come in here, right?
Yeah.
Where we go, what can we control in this situation? We can control how hard we are working on our material, honing our craft. And so, the only part we can control is like what's on your laptop screen in the morning while you're writing your material. And once it gets emailed away, it's like you cannot focus too much on that part of it. If you have something that kills, like great, feel good about that. If you have something that bombs, learn from that, and go, okay, why did that bomb? What happened there? But the part that really the only part you should be invested in is what you are putting on the page and your effort. And that has helped me a lot, because I go, yeah, because that kind of amps me up a little bit too, where if I go, maybe, especially when we're working on a big project, like Jimmy's hosted the Oscars a few times, which for a comedy writer is kind of like the Super Bowl, right? You're like, okay, a
Right.
lot of people see that. That's an exciting thing. And so we work on that for months, months and months. We write thousands of jokes and, probably 30 jokes end up in an Oscars monologue. And to get there, we write like 5,000 jokes, right? It's a huge task and it's really hard to get a joke in there. And so I might write a couple of rounds, we have all these topics we're writing to. And if I go a couple of rounds, be like, I haven't really got anything approved yet. There's like two paths you can take in that. One is you can go, oh, my jokes were so great and Jimmy's not picking them or whatever. Or I can go, all right, what's the part I can focus on? I can grind on some jokes and I'm going to really push myself in this moment to do everything I can. But again, that's the only part I can control. I can't, once it leaves my computer, I have no say over what happens. So just focusing on the task at hand really helps me.
This is a part of like doing this podcast that I love, Danny, because what you're talking about is something that I think like every military leader can be like, okay, this is good advice. Because again, you may work days on a brief, you may stay till 8, 9 o'clock at night working on something that doesn't get used, but like your job is to give something to the one person who has the authority and the responsibility to actually execute those things.
Hmm.
And the only thing you can control is the work you put in it. Something else I'm curious too is like, is there a pressure there? Like, I love this thing that Lorne Michaels says, is that we don't go on Saturday Night Live because we're ready. We go on because it's 11:30 on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, is there like a pressure too to like, I could see it being stressful of like, holy crap, like what if I show up today and I don't have it. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
slow. I like, it's just like the magic, the muses aren't like coming to me. The jokes aren't flowing. Like, is there a stress with that too?
There is for sure, and part of it is you just get seasoned from doing it every day. And I mean, I think I could probably write jokes in an exploding volcano at this point, because I've just like I've done it in so many situations. I mean, it's like having a baby in the house. Like, I mean, even like last week, it's like my son woke me up in the middle of the night. I was exhausted in the morning when I was writing, but I was like, I've written in that mode before and I can do it. Or when we do the Oscars, usually the night before the Oscars, we're up all night rewriting our script and we don't sleep the day. But I'm like, I go into like sort of low power mode, like when your phone gets that little yellow bar, I'm like, I can
Yeah.
still write in that situation. So we've gotten used to that. And then the other good thing is like we have a great team of writers at our show, including Jimmy. We have 20 writers. And so you know what? If I don't have it today, I know one of my teammates is going to have
Oh,
it,
I love
and
that.
we always get there. Jimmy says that it's like no matter how tough the day is, and things can fall through, and the thing we planned is now can't happen. We got to scramble. He says we always get it done. We've never not gotten it done, and we've never called ABC and go, "Hey, we don't have a show today." Like we've done it every day for 22 years, and so once you have that knowledge too, you go, okay, we've never not done it. We're going to do it this time too. It might be really hard to get there and it may not be 100% of what we were expecting, but it will get done. And there's a confidence that comes from just having that many reps.
Yeah. Does you think when he says stuff like that and like people just repeat it in the writer's room, that it kind of like turns the dial down on the stress level a little bit?
It helps. I mean, Jimmy has very high standards, and I think as a result, we all have very high standards for ourselves. And it's something that like it makes it like people go, "Was Jimmy an easy guy to work for?" And I go, "No." I love him. He's a great guy to work for. He's not an easy guy to work for. And what I mean by that is he holds himself to a really really high standard with everything. And again, we know we're doing a comedy show every night, but it's what we do and we are very passionate about it and making it as good as we can make it every day. And so he's up all night revising script. I mean, I literally like I fall asleep at 10 and I wake up at like 5:36 in the morning, and I have a dozen emails from him where he's revised scripts and he sent us ideas, and like he really he puts in the work. And he also like all afternoon he sits with a couple of writers and he writes the monologue himself with them. And it's like I know lots of people who have written for other talk shows, and yeah, the host like rolls in a couple hours before the taping, is like, hey, what do we got going on today? It's like that's the opposite of what Jimmy does. And so he's so involved. And but I think what that does is it raises the bar for everyone. I think we all put in the effort he puts in, or we try to. His attention to detail is something we've all picked up. But Jimmy's also really good at like if something doesn't go the way we expected, he's not someone who then like calls us up and like reams us or whatever. It's like he goes, well, yeah, that's what happened. And it's like he almost likes when things don't go great. I think he finds humor in that. Like to me, that I think the happiest I've known this man for 20 years, the happiest I've ever seen him was when they gave out the Oscar for the wrong movie at the Oscars, and he was hosting and he had to go up there just in the like most chaotic, awkward situation ever, and he's just smiling from ear to ear. He goes, "Oh, this went so wrong. Like there's humor in this." And so he's or if you write a joke for him that doesn't go well, he doesn't go, "Oh, that really like I'm mad at you," because he's like, "Nah, hey, like I thought it was going to be good too, and we did it." And so he's really good at letting it go once it's happened. So we're never worried we're going to get like in trouble for that kind of stuff, but we all work so hard to make sure to do our best to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, I'm interested, are there, is it kind of, I don't want to like, I know we've like gone over time wise, but this has been awesome.
No, I'm
The,
having a great time.
yeah, the like, I think about it because you have come up from being the guy that gets paid to watch TV all day
Yes,
and
yeah.
just to like feed stuff to the assistant writers and stuff like that
Hmm.
to the head writer. And then you've watched Jimmy kind of be at the mantle of the show now for a long time.
Hmm.
What are some of the leadership lessons that kind of stand out to you? Because you've basically just like in a military context, you've worked your way up, the pyramid of the organization to where
Hmm.
you're mentoring younger writers, like you're the example for folks. So like, what are some of those leadership lessons you think that kind of stand out to you as you look on that?
I mean, the big one for me is leading by example, and I like really respect Jimmy and the way he works, and that's why I work the way I work. And I hope that, new writers who bring on the show see that and try to do the same. And I think as a head writer and as a producer on the show, it's like I could probably like not write material in the morning. I have other, duties I'm doing, but the reason I write every day is for two reasons. One is I really like it, and well, so three reasons. One is I really like doing it. Two is I don't want my skills to atrophy as a writer because I could get caught up in meetings and spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff, and then maybe my skills would go away. But then three, I like, the younger writers on the show to go, oh yeah, like the guy who's in charge, like he's still getting up when it's dark and writing jokes. And I think it's hard for, like, I feel like I can never slack at my job because my boss, Jimmy, is like, he's up doing all this stuff too. And then at the end of the day, when I get to like sit in my office and watch the show, he's down hosting the show. I mean, like, it's like, he's like, when my day's done, it's like, he's doing the hardest part of his day too. And so, Jimmy has hosted the show, like sick. He once like he had appendicitis and he hosted the show and then went and got his appendix taken out. I mean, this is like the type of work ethic. So I think at our show that's been the big thing, and I think it's why everyone really puts in the effort is because they see the guy at the top does that. And I think if Jimmy phoned it in, that would trickle down too. So that has been. And I know that's one of the classics, lead by example, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the epitome of why our staff works like it does.
It's huge. And even as you're talking, like I think about like leaders I've watched in the military and even stuff that I've tried to do. And it like that's where I think like those, there are those parallels between like your world and mine. Because it's the same lessons apply. Another question I have is I could see where a job like yours, just like mine, becomes a 24/7 job. Like if you
Hmm.
the head writer, the writer becomes your identity. So if you struggled or if you figured out a way to, kind of cut that off at a certain time, like when you're home and focus on family without like your mind constantly going back to the show, or is
Uh,
that a question that you're still like working through?
I will say, admittedly, I'm terrible at cutting it off, and part of it is that we always have a show tomorrow, right?
Right.
Even when it's like, even when it's the weekend, it's like, we're a topical news show, and so news is happening, and we're going like, oh yeah, we got to talk about that Monday, and what do we want to do, and so. I try my best like the weekends to not work or like Sunday night. Okay, I got to start preparing for Monday. I kind of save it for then. So I try my best to kind of set up barriers, but yeah, if I'm like falling asleep and my phone buzzes, I gotta go, sure it's not, Jimmy like going that he needs something or whatever. So it is busy. I'm not great at that part of it. It's something I'm trying to get better at for sure.
Oh yeah, again, that's another thing. Like much later in my career, did I actually get get good with setting down boundaries and like even just a couple weeks ago, Ryan was supposed to go speak at the Naval Academy. I don't know if you saw that in the
Yes.
news.
Oh yes. Yeah, I've been following that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was supposed like he was like, "Hey, come with me, and then we can meet and work on this stuff together."
Oh.
But I had planned spring break that week. And
Hmm.
so I was like, "Hey man, I'm sorry. Like I can't. Like I'm taking the kids on vacation." But I don't know that like a younger version of myself would have done that. Like I would have gone like, "Hey babe, like we're going to have to get
Yeah.
the schools to move spring break to another month or like or I'll meet you guys there or whatever."
Yeah.
But it was very hard for me to kind of like start setting boundaries for myself. And now I'm kind of seeing like, oh wow, I do have those.
Yeah, well, I will say that has changed for me over the years where for a long time my career was my my number one priority. And I don't like admitting that, but I think even when my kids were really
Me
little,
too. Me too, Dan.
I was just like, yeah, thank you. That's good to hear that. But, I'd always wanted to be a comedy writer. And then I got this job as a comedy writer. And I just went, oh my God, like I have to do everything I can to keep this job and to excel at it to the extent I can excel at it. And that was really important to me. And and then kind of working in show business too, it's like there's all kinds of cool opportunities that come up and like, oh, there's like a movie premiere you can go to. Just like there's constantly things like that. And now just an example of like that's coming up, it's like um there's this big like advertising presentation in New York in a couple of weeks, and Jimmy's going to go speak at it, and I got asked like, "Oh, do you want to go out and be there for it?" And so, I go, "Okay." What has been presented to me is a free trip to New York City, where they're going to fly me out and stay at a hotel and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, and I don't even really like, I can do that remotely, it's like I can still be writing material for it and all that kind of stuff. But I went, oh, this is over Mother's Day weekend. And I went like, yeah, no, I can't, I can't do that. And just like you were saying, I think me of 15 years ago would have been like, hey, yeah, sorry, sweetie. You understand. I got to go on this big trip to New York. And I just went like, well, what's my priority here? And I'm like, I can still do my job while I'm not there. And my priority is like, yeah, I want to be here, and I didn't even think twice about it. I think that's the difference. It's like it
Yes.
was
Yeah.
once I realized it, I went, oh yeah, no, yeah, I can't make it. And just like you said with your kids and the spring break thing. And luckily, Ryan seems like the kind of guy who completely
Oh,
understands that.
he
He
was just
seems
like,
great at that.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
He was like, cool, man. Yeah, that's fine. We'll plan another
yeah,
week. And
yeah.
so, yeah, I think there's a tension there. And I think like, I appreciate you talking about that, because I know like on our side, again, there's a lot of stuff you have to do. And there's like professional FOMO a lot of times that
Hmm.
like, things look good, but like you have to ask yourself, like, where are your priorities? And I think that's what I realized. Like, and it was in the Oliver Berkman
Hmm.
book. He talks about how like, there's that thing of putting the big rocks in the jar, and
Yep.
then the little rocks and the sand and then the water, and you can put all this stuff in. He's like, the problem is a lot of the rocks are the same size, and like
Yeah.
you have to make a conscious decision of what rocks you put in. And I found that like when I was younger, I was just like, if it was a career rock, I was putting it in. And
Yeah.
if it was a family rock that was roughly the same size and it didn't fit. And now I think I'm prioritizing a lot better. Still not great at it than I did before.
And you start to realize too that like a lot of that stuff is more shallow and hollow than you previously thought. Yeah, because you can go like, oh my God, yeah, I got this chance to like be, go to this crazy event, and like, yeah, I'll miss, I'll miss bedtime or, whatever, but oh, but look at this crazy event. And then you go there and you're like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a kind of a bunch of like, publicists like standing around. And I go like, why am I here? I go, my kids are at home being like, oh, I wish dad was home. He's not reading to me tonight, whatever. And I go, yeah, there's no other than like ego or being able to say like, oh, I went to this fancy thing. You're like, what's the point of this? Like I'm needed at home. I want to be at home. And I don't know. I had enough instances like that where I just went like, yeah, I don't even really enjoy being at a lot of these types of events, and I really enjoy being home with my kids and having that sweet little time at the end of the day. So now there's no question the decision is very clear to me, but it took me a number of years to realize that.
It's great. And then like the talk that and we'll like wrap this thing up soon, but
I know I'm
yeah,
I'm really enjoying talking to you.
but the talk, this idea of like things that you have to do for your job, and then like the
Hmm.
nice shiny things. And so like when I first got out of the military, I felt like I was like, I've got to stay like relevant. So I've got to go speak at these things and go to these things. And then Ryan texted me. I was asking Ryan about it, and he was like, hey, he's like, you're not an indie rock band. Like,
Uh-huh.
you don't need to be on the road, like touring
Yep.
to, like do this stuff. He's like, if you want to be a good writer, like you just have to write. And so I was like, okay. So like that kind of like, it was
Hmm.
just a little reminder of like, okay, I can do this stuff at home. And some of these shinier objects, like I have to balance between, do I want to go do this thing, and will it affect, the family, or like, do I just need to stay home and do that? So I loved it. That's why I love like the people like yourself that do something completely different from what I've done, but like there's
Hmm.
so many parallels. And I feel like the decisions we face a lot of times are the same exact decisions. It's just you're doing it in a writer's room and I'm doing it, in a command post. It's just, maybe the stakes are a little bit higher sometimes for me,
Yeah, I'd say more than a little bit, but yeah.
but that internal pressure is still there regardless of what you do. I think it's that ego that we were talking about before. If the
Hmm.
ego tries to pull you into doing these other things that aren't necessarily necessary.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's we're all just humans, I guess, and that's kind of what it comes down to. It's like if you got kids, it's like they need the same things from you, whether you're famous or whether you're a school teacher or whether you're whatever it is. It's like we all kind of have that same push and pull with work, and it's easy for the things that you're kind of told are supposed to be exciting. It's easy for those to creep in, and
Yeah.
even for me right now, it's like, I work a lot of hours and I'll get offers for other little jobs. And one thing I'm not great about is like turning those down. And I probably should be, but it's like, I also kind of have like a survivalist mindset too, where I go, well, I have this job right now, but someday that'll end and then I'll never work again. And, so I better just make all the money I can right now. And, but I'm trying to be better by going like, it'll be okay. Like this gig is going to make my week like so stressful. And I go, yeah, like if I don't take it, even if the money is like, yeah, it looks pretty good or whatever, be like, well, is that worth me being home a little more and being present a little more and having a little mental quiet a little more, it's like that's very valuable too. And I'm trying to get better at finding that balance. I'm sure you're the same way with speaking gigs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I am. And I think that there's something that I used to do in command, and I don't remember where I heard it from, but like, there's like I'm a commander to like 500 people,
Hmm.
and they have a bunch of leaders over them, but like my two kids only have one dad.
Yeah.
And so like there's times that I got to make that decision. And
Hmm.
so yeah, but I still like, even now, like I still struggle with it. Like I'm like, oh man, like if I don't do this thing, then like I may not have a paycheck next year, because that's the other thing. Like I went from knowing that I was going to have a paycheck every year to like
Hmm.
now it's like I don't know what's going to happen. Like there's a lot of unknown with this creative world. But then
Yeah.
I look at like people like Stephen Pressfield and like Terry Hayes. They're like in their 80s.
Hmm.
And Terry Hayes was the script writer for the Mad Max movies,
Yep.
and then he like became a novelist. And so I'm like, okay, if these guys can continue to write in their, like, maybe I'll figure it out and be able to keep doing it.
Well, look at what you've carved out even just in these few years you've been retired. It's like it's if you push and you are dedicated, it's like that stuff pays off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Danny. Well, this was awesome, man. We got the parent stuff, and you got to just indulge my curiosity on the life of a writer. So again, this was a great interview, and I wish you the best of luck
Likewise.
on the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, and best of luck with the book, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to another episode of From the Green Notebook podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please give us 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us gain visibility and the opportunity to help more people on their leadership journey. Also, make sure you check out our website at www.fromthegreennotebook.com. There, you can listen to past episodes, read leadership articles written by military leaders from around the world. You can sign up for our monthly reading list email where you can learn about new books that are coming out, and our Sunday reflection email that comes out every Sunday morning. Is really short. It's a 2-minute read, but I guarantee you it's going to start your week off on the right foot. Finally, make sure you follow us on Twitter at FTGN Notebook, and you can find us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for From the Green Notebook. Again, thank you so much for coming on this journey with us. I am humbled by the opportunity to learn these lessons alongside you. So please join us next week for another episode of From the Green Notebook, where we're going to help you lead with the best version of yourself.
I came from the mud. There's